It is Wednesday, 11th of September 2024. This is what you're waking up to. JKIA at standstill. These are just some of the images being shared on X, formerly Twitter, by people traveling, hoping to travel to other places. Currently at the JKIA, nothing is happening. Interesting scenes. These are the images we have. Yes, images on your screens. Travelers stranded, not able to access the departure terminals at the JKIA, and this follows a go-slow, and now it has moved on to a total shutdown, a strike by aviation workers at the JKIA protesting the proposed takeover of JKIA and other airports by Indian company Adani Group. And this is set to continue. A number of flights have been delayed because of this total shutdown at the airport. Shiksha.
Absolutely. This has been the scene since yesterday, Fred. We've been seeing, pictures and videos coming in since last night from around, I think, 10 p.m., 9 p.m. is when we started seeing what the latest is. And of course, this build-up has been ongoing. And now, totally, as you've said, it is a complete halt for the Kenya Airports Union workers. Obviously, they are protesting. That is the current planned leasing of the airport of JKIA. So that's something that we will keep following right here.
It is a top trend on X.
Absolutely.
Occupy JKIA, Stop Adani. Those are the trending hashtags. Something else that's trending this morning is presidential debates in the U.S. 55 days to go to the election date today. Last night, actually, a few minutes ago.
Yes. It just ended, if I'm not wrong.
Yes, the two presidential candidates, the Republican candidate Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, the Democratic Party candidate, went head-to-head in an ABC network organized debate on a number of issues came up.
Absolutely. A lot has been said, Fred. Kamala Harris also mentioned a lot of things, including calling Donald Trump a criminal.
Right.
And she said that, well, guess what? You aren't one to talk about the security in the country, especially when you're a criminal yourself.
A very interesting debate. And this perhaps will just be the first and only debate that the two candidates will engage in before Election Day. We do have some clips from that. Let's listen in.
To those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well,
All right, big news there, and we'll continue following this up. Karibu sana, this is a Morning Cafe. My name is Fred Indimuli.
My name is Jkia Concession. You're watching TV 47 as we update you on what's happening in the country and, of course, beyond our borders as well. You can find us on social media at TV 47 Kenya on Facebook and on X at TV 47 News, at Jkia Concession and at
Fred Indimuli. Of course, today, State of the Nation will be having this panelists, Danson Mungatana, Senator Tana River, Beatrice Alachi, MP Dagoretti North, and Basil Robert Ngui, MP Yata constituency. Do stand by for that conversation at exactly 6:30.
Right at 8 a.m. we will be talking about toxic relationships, something that a lot of people go through. They just don't know when to sign out. They don't know when to call it wraps. That's something that we'll be discussing with Judith Ngerechi, wellness advocate and champion for women and vulnerable children rights, as well as Dr. Julius Kimani, a counselor. That's happening from 8 to 9 a.m.
All right, after that, Tasty Wednesday.
We have avocado and smoked salmon open sandwich by Executive Chef David from Olive Gardens Hotel. So we'll be teaching you how to make a quick breakfast
avocado
sandwich.
To make a cameo there. All right, straight to the headlines this morning now, and we start off with the Star because they say smart people read the Star.
Absolutely.
Gadhungu, that's the Auditor General, why many schools add death traps, and this is a big headline. It continues being the top story this entire week following that tragic fire at Endarasha Hillside Academy last week. They say most schools do not have the right equipment and tools to handle fires. We'll be back to discuss this and a lot more. On the People Daily. Why
2027 polls remain in limbo, and that is the top story, of course, taking up majority of the page on the People Daily.
Oh, right. On the Daily Nation, why Raila MPs skipped Ruto's meeting. It's getting interesting. The broad-based government is still taking shape, but there appears to be cracks already. That's the Daily Nation.
That's in the Taifa Leo. Kiini cha ODM kugomea Ruto.
I think more or less the same headline. Why MPs failed to attend a meeting called by the president. That's the Taifa Leo this morning.
We also have the Business Daily, which reads 1.5 million idle NSE accounts frozen as IPO drought bites. And this is something that they'll be talking about how some trading accounts have been dormant for 2 years, and majority of these inactive accounts were actually opened during the 2000s boom.
What's happening to the NSE?
Yep.
Across the border into Uganda. Good Lord, the roads, I'm telling you.
What a dramatic headline.
Jirani hana barabara. they call it a bumpy ride. After enduring bumpy rides on roads in ruins across city suburbs, a project launched in Kira municipality, Wakiso district yesterday, could herald the beginning of good things for residents in areas considered a dormitory for Greater Kampala metropolitan area. So yes, it sounded almost like doom, but it appears it's something positive. So good Lord, the roads. And if you hear any Ugandan tell you, the roads in Uganda, in Kampala especially, are not so good. But at least they're doing something about it. So relief for Wakiso commuters, suburbs in ruins of a bad roads. That's a big headline on the front page of the Daily Monitor in Uganda. Still in Uganda, the New Vision.
It says Museveni warns army on graft. Of course, you can see a picture of him there with the army. And yeah, he is basically going to be telling us what the problem is and why the strong army is very crucial for defense of Uganda. So that's on the front page of News Vision.
In Kenya, we don't talk about corruption in the army. It's something we whisper about.
Seems like Museveni is not afraid of that.
He is the main guy. He is the army himself.
Yes.
Remains of 2 Ugandan martyrs returned. This is after 111 years in the Italian city of Rome. The remains of 2 Ugandan martyrs, Charles Lwanga and Matia Mulumba, were returned to Uganda on Monday this week. This is a big story for Christians who actually do pilgrimage to Uganda every year to pay respects to the martyrs there. That's a story on the New Vision. Cross the border into Bongo and we have the Mwananchi. Ajali za acha vilio Katoliki na KKKT.
Yep.
Matters road accidents, road carnage in Tanzania, and this is something that's also happening in Kenya as well.
Of course.
Of the past 2 weeks or so, we've witnessed quite a number of road accidents that have killed so many people. I think the death toll has gone over 50 by now in the past 1 month or so. It is a big headline on the front page of Mwananchi.
Right, the Citizen says no decision yet to import Ethiopia power, says government. And the government actually said yesterday that Tanzania has yet to decide whether to import electricity from Ethiopia, despite the existence of regional agreements on the potential for power trade between the two nations. Of course, it seems like there's a split on the top stories. We have another one that talks about tourism, and analysts actually weigh in as tourism earnings cross $3.5 billion. That's on page 2 of the Citizen.
And if at all Tanzania is to get this power from Ethiopia, guess what? It would have to pass through Kenya.
I guess.
It will have to pass through Kenya here, or at least Uganda.
It says
there's no other way.
Djibouti, Sudan and Kenya as part of its broader strategy to increase revenue. So yes, it will be passing Kenya, I believe.
That's so far for it to get power. So the government yesterday said that Tanzania has yet to decide whether to import electricity from Ethiopia, despite the existence of regional agreements. Wow, interesting. So these are the dailies regionally. We'll be back to take a look at the local dailies in a bit. For now, let's take a look at the weather situation. And we start off with Nyahururu.
11 degrees
and
in
it actually
Nyahururu.
feels like 10. That's the situation.
That is very cold. A cold there in Nyahururu. Of course, we've got highs of 21 degrees. But seems like at the moment things are pretty cold. Up until midday, that's when you start experiencing warmer temperatures. That's in Nyahururu.
I think this is the coldest we've seen. We've seen this is the coldest in the country, across the country.
Right.
Let's take a look at Busia. And Busia is not so bad, 19 degrees Celsius this morning. Quite warm, fairly warm.
It goes up to 28 degrees, which is summer, which is...
Yesterday, I'm telling you, Nairobi was 27 degrees. And
it was a beautiful,
we felt it.
day.
We felt it.
I was so happy that the sun is out. I was like, is this finally the end of our much dreaded winter, in quotes?
Let's take a look at Lamu, which is even warmer this morning.
25 degrees.
It's only 11 minutes
pleasant.
past 6, 25 degrees.
And it goes up to 29 degrees at 11 a.m., which, if you ask me, it is holiday weather.
Proper holiday weather.
You need to book a trip to Lamu urgently. Of course, let's take a look at what's happening here in the capital, in Nairobi. 14 degrees. Pretty accurate, feels like 14, but it does go up to 26 degrees.
It promises to be just as warm as yesterday, so yes.
That makes me do a happy dance because
dress lightly.
the dresses are back, the skirts are back.
The sundresses are back.
Yep.
And you can see it's mostly sunny the entire day. A bit cloudy towards the evening, but nothing much. No chance of rain. Very little chance.
2 p.m. onwards, I guess. That's when, we start experiencing the clouds. But up until then, a very beautiful, bright and sunny day in the capital.
Problem is it can also get dusty sometimes when it's this hot. But we'll be back to take a look at the traffic situation later on at around 6:30. For now, let's take a look at Today in History.
Today in History, 11th September. The United Nations lifted sanctions on Libya on September 11, 2003, after Libya accepted responsibility for the 1988 Lockerbie bombing and agreed to compensate the victims' families.
All right, just a reminder of what's happening at the JKIA this morning. Total shutdown. The hashtag is Stop Adani and the other trending hashtag is Occupy JKIA. Long queues of travelers stranded at the departure terminals as ground services have been ground to a halt, literally.
Yep, absolutely.
With the Kenya Aviation Workers Union allied workers.
It's actually their biggest strike so far.
Yes. This is actually promising to be something much bigger. Once JKIA is shut down like this, no travel in, no travel out, it could mean a lot.
I'm actually supposed to travel tomorrow. I don't know what happens. Time will tell.
The strike started officially at midnight, but the go-slow started as early as 10 p.m. yesterday.
Yep.
So these are just some of the images from JKIA right now. A lot of travelers have been stranded without proper services to actually get even to the planes, and you can imagine even the air traffic controllers are supposed to be on strike. So what exactly happens at JKIA? What happens to the flights?
Does that mean that we will have to kind of halt all flights coming to the country and all flights leaving? Because currently, as you can see, there is no passenger who is going to get to the baggage check-in, security.
I saw CNN journalist Larry Mado did a short video and shared it on his X platform, saying that he was lucky to be among the last few passengers to board his plane or his flight out lucky just before the strike took effect at midnight. It was around 2 minutes to midnight. And of course, the Kenya Aviation Workers Union are protesting the proposed deal to lease the operations of the JKIA and other major airports in Kenya to the Indian group Adani. And this is a big debate across the entire country. What exactly will happen?
We've been hearing that there is a proposed leasing that is set to happen of JKIA, but we don't know yet. Obviously, the government has denied it. Know what
a lot of worry. The government, actually, the president came out and said, yes, it's a good deal, but the only problem is they're yet to make public details.
Exactly. So these are things that I think people are worried, including the Kenya Airport Union workers who have some worries. They're a bit skeptical about this clearly, and they've decided to down their tools, go on strike. At the moment, yesterday, as Fred said, there was the go slow, but as of midnight, complete halt of all services. Basically, all flights, nothing is happening, no sort of movement there at JKIA, but that's something that we'll continue following up right here on TV 47.
All right, the other big hashtag this morning is a U.S. presidential debate. Kamala Harris, the Democratic Party presidential candidate, and Donald Trump, the Republican candidate, went head-to-head in an ABC organized debate, the first and only debate that these candidates will have. Let's listen in.
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people. So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States. And world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace. And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did, in fact, lose that election, it leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about facts.
Wow. Wow. She just not indirectly. She actually directly told him to his face that you rigged the election, you are fired.
You are a disgrace.
You are a disgrace. You're confused. You don't have the temperament to run the country.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So we'll try and bring you more bites and clips from that debate, which ended a few minutes ago. And of course, it's something that will continue making news this entire day. Let's come back to the country and take a look at the dailies this morning. All right, let's take a look at the Star this morning. The Star decides to go with what many people have been talking about over the past week or so, 5-7 days since that tragic fire at the Hillside Academy in Russia. And this is the Auditor General Nancy Gadhungu saying why many schools are death traps. Most do not have the right equipment and tools to handle fires. And the debate is whether or not we should still have boarding schools in Kenya with this kind of situation.
You know, we've been seeing this happening over and over again. There have been other schools that have also gone through the same thing that we've seen, and I feel like this is something that we need to really talk about, and that needs to be handled once and for all, because year in, year out, Fred, this is something that we're seeing. Every year it happens. So what next? What happens to the so-called boarding schools that really don't have the equipment and tools to be able to put a fire out?
And why can't schools simply handle fires better? And this is a story on pages 4 and 5 of the Star today. You can grab a copy of the Star because smart people read the Star. Yes, let's take a look at the People Daily this morning.
Right, it says why 2027 polls remain in limbo. And of course, this is a crisis as the authorities rush to set up elections agency. Experts warn delay in review of constituency boundaries within legal timelines, which could plunge country into a constitutional quagmire.
Now, this story, we've been talking about it towards the end of last year because according to the Constitution, we're supposed to review our boundaries after 8 years, but not later than 12 years. We've already exited that, meaning we're already in defiance of the Constitution. Now is when people are talking about it, but we still do not have IEBC in place, so constituency boundaries cannot be reviewed, and that means that come 2027, we already have a crisis. Someone could go to court and say, you can't hold elections because you did not review the boundaries. Maybe kuna mtu anapanga iende hivyo.
Somebody is already thinking about it.
Yes.
In fact, at the top there, we see, you know, our one and only Hassan, CS Hassan Joho, who says, shock, over 1.6 billion has been used, shillings, to count fish in the ocean. Yeah,
this is the CS in charge of mining and the blue economy. And he says, we've been counting fish, and it's been costly.
1.6 billion shillings in particular.
In Kenya. The other story given prominence here, still linked to the big story, is Kenya Power denying a link to the school fire. Initially, they had said the cause of the fire was a suspected electric fault. Kenya Power says, no, everything we've checked is still intact, so it cannot be us.
And that's on page 5. So yes, over here, it seems like it has gone into, you know, the middle of the, not the middle, but not the beginning, obviously, not the cover page. And that's the Daily Nation. And here we're talking about siasa, politics.
Why Raila MPs skipped a Ruto meeting. Now, the president earlier this week had a meeting in Nairobi. He invited a number of ODM MPs from Nairobi to State House, first to accompany him as he went to Kibra to inspect affordable housing units. Then later for lunch at State House. Only a few turned up. One of them will be in studio today, and that's Beatrice Elachi,
Okay.
MP for Dagoretti North. A number of MPs from Nairobi just said, you cannot be inviting us to State House. As who? You're not our party leader. So
But I think Raila Odinga was not able to attend because he was learning French. I don't know if you saw the clip of him
he's
learning.
busy right now.
He's very busy. So there's a lot of French that needs to be learned, which is what he was probably doing. Hence, he did not attend this meeting.
All right. The big mention of JKIA on the top strip of the Daily Nation. Court now puts the brakes on proposal to lease out JKIA. There is an injunction already issued by the court. The High Court has temporarily suspended the government's proposal to lease JKIA to Indian conglomerate Adani Enterprises for a period of 30 years. It is the same problem that we are seeing at JKIA. The court has already pronounced itself as the case continues, but so far, already a go slow at JKIA. Something else that people are not talking about is down here.
Fresh wave of school unrest sparks alarm. Of course, this is about the stakeholders in the education sector who've expressed concern over the cases of unrest in secondary schools that have left property worth millions destroyed, and some schools have actually been closed over the last 2 weeks. I remember over 100 schools sent students home for the fear that they would actually damage school property as well. Yeah, and this is something that we are seeing. Universities, schools in crisis.
After that fight in Russia, we've had reports of other quick fires
almost every day
as well. Yes. Taifa Leo, kiini cha ODM kugomea Ruto ni siasa zile zile za ODM na wanachokiita broad-based government. Baadhi ya viongozi chamani wanahisi kuunga mkono Rais Ruto kutawachongea pakubwa machoni pa wananchi, na kuna mgawanyiko wanasema, kwa mujibu wa baadhi ya viongozi wa ngazi za juu katika ODM. Kwa sasa chama kimechanganyika na viongozi hasa katika kaunti ya Nairobi hawajui iwapo wapinge au waunge mkono serikali ya William Ruto. Yes. So nasikia kuna ODM in government, ODM in opposition, ODM IG, ODM IO.
Interesting.
That's the front page of Taifa Leo hii leo. Vidokezo vingine haraka haraka: uhasama wa Gachagua na Kindiki warudi, kwingineko wanafunzi wahojiwa kwa uharibifu Meru, na serikali kununua gunia la mahindi kwa shilingi 4,000. So this for farmers. 4,000 bob for a bag of maize. That's the price the government is giving you today.
All right, the Business Daily Matters business, where 1.5 million idle NSE accounts frozen as IPO drought bites. And of course, this is about 97.5% of 1.5 million accounts that are used for share trading at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, that's NSC, have been actually frozen for the past 2 years, over 2 years, revealing the apathy among retail investors who entered the market in the 2000s. Initial public offering, that's IPO boom. So only 38.5 of the 1,555,000 plus share accounts of the Central Depository and Settlement Corporation have participated in trading over the 2 years, representing only, Fred, a 2.48% share. So obviously this means there's reduced participation of retail investors. And yeah, they're saying that, you know, this is something that's a product of the high-level speculation that dominates the investment decisions right here.
And of course our politics affects a lot of that.
Yes.
The other story here is the Treasury fearing losing 214 billion shillings if 2023 Finance Act fails. Now, we are not talking about 2024 Finance Bill.
Yes.
It is a 2023 Finance Act that had been declared unconstitutional by the courts. That is still in court, and it would mean a lot of VAT collections could change with that. A quick look at the cartoons this morning, and let's see what the caricaturists are talking about. And this is a cartoon on the Daily Nation.
Taxes will come down. Broken record.
And we have the image there, and I'm imagining, because this is the first or second time we're seeing him being caricatured. That's a new CS for Treasury, John Buddy. And he's handling what we may call a broken record.
Quite literally.
The statement that taxes will come down is more or less a broken record, because you're telling people who are already burdened by housing levy, payee, other taxes, VAT.
And this is the common mwananchi.
Punda.
Who's the punda?
Punda amechoka, alafu unasema ati taxes will come down. That's a broken record now.
Absolutely.
That's a Daily Nation cartoon. The Star. You have a mousetrap, court summons on one hand, and a caricature of someone who looks like the acting Inspector General of Police, Bwana Masengeli.
And that's a trap.
Yes.
Quite literally.
But it appears he has managed to jump over it.
Yeah, seems like he's escaped.
He was convicted 2 days ago by the High Court for contempt of court.
Ooh,
he's awaiting sentencing come Friday. What exactly will happen to him? Will he be convicted? He faces up to 6 months in jail for failing to adhere to court orders 7 times.
Yeah.
Do you think you can do that?
No. I think the only other person who can probably do that is when our Nairobi governor decided not to appear in Parliament. How many times?
Enough times.
Enough
but
times.
He had to pay a fine.
So similarly, we'll find out
That's
what
the cartoon
happens.
on the Star. The People Daily, finally.
University controversial funding model. Of course,
it's a maze.
Yep, people are confused, students are confused, teachers look confused as well. There's no way out, question marks right there. And as we see over there, it says
rich students
who have got out.
Yes, them, they have money to cross over, it doesn't matter, they can afford it.
Yep.
But anyone else who's struggling to pay.
Everyone else seems to be stuck apart from the rich students.
All right. Let's now take a look at the traffic situation at around 3 minutes to 1:30. And this would mean that traffic is building up.
You can see some red right there on the roads, which does mean that, yes,
just
traffic is 100% building up.
This is a Pangani interchange.
Yes.
It forms the bottleneck between Kiambu Road and Thika Road, and you can see a dark red there, meaning
going
traffic
into Parklands, Westlands.
Yes, heading towards town.
Yes.
So anyone coming from Kiambu Road or Thika Road, once you get to Pangani, be sure you'll spend some time here before you proceed either to Muranga Road or to Wangari Maathai Road, which formerly was known as Forest
Road.
Yes.
We also have some traffic there at Makadara.
This is Jogoo Road. Yes. Jogoo Road hasn't changed much. At 6 a.m., the situation was more or less like this. The usual trouble spots along Jogoo Road, Makadara, around Botella, a number of bus stops there.
Yeah.
And once you get closer to town, that's this is Expressway, Mombasa Road. And I think people are struggling to get onto the expressway.
That just seems to be the traffic to get into the expressway, the usual MTC line. Quite the bane of a lot of people's problems.
But it's not so bad after Next Gen Mall getting towards the Nyayo Stadium roundabout and into town. It's looking good.
Gong Road right there, the roundabout there. A bit of yellow.
This is a busy place. That's a city mortuary roundabout. It gets pretty busy right now. Sections of Ngong Road as well towards town. This is a Prestige Plaza, far back at Adams Arcade. Bits of red there, meaning, but that's normal traffic for that section of the road. Let's take a look at Langata Road. Langata Road, this is Uhuru Gardens towards town. It's looking good. Mbagathi Way also looking good. Nothing much to report there. And finally, the other major tributary into town is Wayaki Way. Wayaki Way is looking busy. Once you go past Mountain View, Kangemi, and past Kangemi towards Nairobi
There's a couple of hold-ups there.
Yes.
There seems to be 3 in particular that we can see.
This is at Kangemi,
there.
and that's probably because of the bus stop.
Another bus stop right there.
And some bumps here at Nairobi School.
All right.
But after that, getting into town, it's looking smooth, not so bad. So as at 6:29, that's the traffic situation in Nairobi this morning. All right, and we're about to take a break. When we come back, we start the conversations, and allow me to just sweep back the main.
Keep swiping, Fred.
Posters this morning. State of the Nation. Coming after the break, Senator Danson Mungatano of Tana River, Basil Robert Ngui, MP at a constituency, and Beatrice Elachi, MP Dagoretti North will be in studio to take a look at the main headlines this morning. On the Standard, which you didn't get to sample, make or break for Ruto in cash crisis is one of the biggest discussions this morning as well. Later on, toxic relationships.
Absolutely. So we'll be talking to Judith Ngerechi, wellness advocate and champion for women and vulnerable children's rights, as well as Dr. Julius Kimani, counselor, and we discuss toxic relationships. Of course, that's a topic that quite a hot topic, to be honest.
Especially celebrities now.
Yes, we see them hanging on for their lives.
Right.
We also have some delicious food that's going to be made by executive chef David from Olive Gardens Hotel. And on Tasty Wednesday today at 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., we will be cooking avocado and smoked salmon open sandwich. So make sure you've got your recipe books ready, your notebooks ready, open, just in case you want to write down that delicious recipe. Chef David has actually come before on the show, and he's quite meticulous when it comes to his cooking.
All right, something to look forward to. Remember, you can be part of this show throughout till 10 a.m. on X at TV47 News and on Facebook, TV47 Kenya. You can tag us as well at
Shiksha Aurora.
At Fred Indemuli on X. Let's take a break. You're watching Morning Cafe.
We'll be right back.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
A quick look at the headlines this morning. Gadhungu, why many schools are death traps. That's the headline on the Star. Of course, as a follow-up to what's happening, that tragic event at Endarasha Hillside School. Why 2027 polls remain in limbo, and it has to do with the fact that we are yet to review our constituency boundaries. That's the People Daily. Taifa Leo, kiini cha ODM kugomea Ruto. Same headline on The Nation. Why Raila MPs skipped a Ruto meeting. And on the Standard this morning, make or break for Ruto in cash crisis. But even as we talk about the headlines, there's some piece of news that is yet to be captured by the newspapers today, this morning, and it's what is happening at the JKIA. We do have some pictures there that we continue sharing with you. The airport, our major airport, appears to be at a standstill right now. A lot of passengers stranded there trying to catch their flights to leave for different destinations. But a strike by Kenya Aviation Workers Union has ground services there to a halt, so not much is happening, and this started at midnight. The go-slow started earlier at around 10 p.m. and we are informed that thousands of passengers are still stranded at the airport trying to catch their flights this morning. We'll be bringing you details as we continue with the day. The Kenya Aviation Workers Union, of course, protesting the planned proposal to lease out JKIA and the running of JKIA and other airports in Kenya to Adani Group of India. Allow me to introduce my panelists this morning, beginning on my immediate right. Danson Mungatana, Senator Tana River.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Next to Senator is Basil Robert Ngui, MP Yata constituency. It's good to have you in studio this morning.
Thank you and good morning.
Beatrice Alachi, MP Dagoretti North, also makes it to studio this morning. It's good to have you. Karibu sana.
Asante.
Let's start off with what's happening at the airport. A lot has been said about this Adani deal. Now, it would appear it's getting to crisis level. Yesterday, the court issued an injunction on this after a number of people went there seeking legal redress, stopping the proposed deal. But Kenya Aviation Workers Union are already on strike, meaning that if you're hoping to travel out through JKIA, you may have to change your travel plans, Senator.
Yes.
You're one of those hoping to travel out of the country.
Good morning again, Fred. In fact, we have sessions for the Pan-African Parliament that are supposed to start on Thursday. So we are supposed to leave with the midnight, the flight that reaches Joburg in midnight. So if the situation doesn't improve, I think I'm directly affected, and all my colleagues who represent Kenya there, the 5 of us, may not be able to travel tonight, which is not good for our country. But even more important is the fact that Kenya is a hub of communication. West Africans, Central Africa, they come, connect, and they go to various places. So if that reputation starts growing, that this place is unreliable, I have said it in the past, I will say it again. President Kagame of Rwanda is building a very huge facility. And if we don't get our act together, we might lose out big time. And you see, reputation is what, like us lawyers, trade on. Once it is gone, it takes a long time before people come back to you. So reputation of JKIA will be affected, and then other countries will pick it up because nobody is waiting for us. The question is, how did we get here? I think it is just the whole question of public participation, lack of transparency. And I'm asking myself, what is it that will make you not be open about a public deal? What is the problem with officials who are given positions? I think this is a letdown, whether it was done in the previous administration or current administration, whether it was Uhuru or Ruto, whoever is in charge, whoever was participating in this thing, I think names must be mentioned and punishments or sanctions be visited upon them, because we can't have a whole country being messed up by individuals who are doing the wrong thing, and they know they're doing the wrong thing. And what is the problem with just saying we are involved in these negotiations, these are the terms? It's not your office. It's like the Senate office. It's not my office. That's why every day I try to tell people where I am or what I'm doing. Now, my appeal is that as late as yesterday, in fact it should have happened a long time ago when this thing started coming up, the Minister for Transport should have come out open and say what he needs to say. But we've had changes. It could be argued there was no minister. Now we have a cabinet secretary sworn in and is in charge of this facility. I would want to appeal to the cabinet secretary, and I'm in this government, I'm in this administration. I support the president, I'm in UDA, but I would want the minister to come out and say something. I know the Senate committee has already called him, but he should not wait for the date to come. He should come out public, hold a press conference, take all manner of questions from the media, clarify what is not true, accept if there's a mistake, and tell us how we will correct it. Okay. We are not going to allow this country to be governed by the courts. The courts do not have the mandate of the people to run the affairs of the executive. So the ministers should take charge. Surely, how can problems about the airport be going on and the minister is nowhere? Okay. We are paying them a very hefty salary. Can he come out and say something like today morning?
It is the top trending news right now on X. Stop Adani, that's the trending hashtag, Buena Basil, and Occupy JKIA. It promises to be a serious crisis, this one. A lot has been said, many discussions, even the president himself in one of the town hall meetings recently tried to explain this deal, and the president finds himself in a position where he has to explain a lot of late. He has an entire cabinet that's not doing any explanation. But what's your take on this issue?
First, thank you for hosting me again. I want to say, one, why did we get where we are? Because in principle, how would we lease JKI for 30 years? And the amount of money that we are collecting, that is the deal of, that is 280 billion. JKI dependently makes that money. So it's ridiculous. You lease a unit or you lease JKI, one of the very busy airports within the region, and what you are intending to get out of the deal, you can make it without a lease. So it means someone is making something out of this. And that is why you find now the court has issued a suspension and it's not been honored. It's not being respected, and it is what is contributing to the protests that we are seeing and paralyzing all flights, air travels. And I would say it is a shame. Remember, it's not even Rwanda, which is going to compete with us. Ethiopia already, they have one of the biggest airports, and that is going to take the glory JKI has enjoyed over the years. When you look at the issue, the nitty-gritty of this particular deal, not only are we going to incur job losses, but Adani is going to make serious money out of this. First, the concession fee is 6 billion. And then they'll continue making 10 billion every 5 years. And after the lease of 30 years, they will have an equity stake of about 18%. So in principle, that is conning. It's conning. And this is not to the interest of Kenyans. So it's someone who is behind the deal, is doing it for his or personal gain. His or her personal gain. I don't know whether it's a he or whether it's a she, but I presume could be a he, a powerful he for that matter. Because you heard what Senator said, that the CS is mute about it. So what does that tell you? The person who is behind the deal is of higher authority than the CS. And that's why the CS is put in a position of what I would say quagmire, where he is not sure what he's supposed to do.
Okay, and Mheshimiwa Lachi, the biggest issue, and the Senator mentioned it, has to do with public participation, that as we continue, more and more members of the public, including the workers at JKIA, feel that no one is involving them in this discussion. Decisions, big decisions about their lives are being made. The Kenya Aviation Workers Union has asked for clarity on this matter. They've not been given all the documents they've asked for, and that's why they've gone on strike. The president comes out and explains that the deal, one of the dividends that would come from this deal is probably direct investment from private sources for a new runway and a new terminal at the airport. And one wonders, can't we do that ourselves?
No, you'll still eat the money. See, that's the problem with us. Let's start from where we are bad people. We do things without thinking it can stay for 20 years. Let's start from there. That's the problem of our country, Kenya. It is a culture that we must think. Everything is going private across the world. Even Istanbul is private. But what the government did wrong is to bring in a company that you know very well. It's a company that has serious issues across the world. That's the biggest mistake Kenya did. And I would say the whole team of transport, whoever just thought of even the name, that is where we went wrong. But to privatize and to make JKIA back to its old days, the hub of Africa, is critical to us. Because Ethiopia, it's not that when we see Ethiopia doing things, it's not. They are so much in concession with very many. That is why Ethiopia lands everywhere in the world. It does not mean you are not in agreements with, you are in agreements with every country that you are in. And therefore, they are also part and parcel of your airport. That's why they allow you to land in the US in all, Ethiopia lands in all the states of the US. It lands in China, all the states of China. I mean, it means there is something they are doing together. So we have to do that. The other day, you know why I'm feeling a bit sad, is that Zambia wanted to start bringing in their flights to Kenya. And Kenya refuses, and I'm like, you're refusing, and yet it is Zambia that has kept us. Yeah, you've been going on that route for the longest, so just allow them. You'll still have your clientele, because people go the way people are taken care with all these airlines you see. So you'll not lose your clientele, but you'll enhance that friendship so that you engage in other routes that are down those sides in the south. So for me, this is a global thing. We have to rethink. By the time Ethiopia is finishing its Heathrow, it's building its Heathrow, by the way. Tell me where Kenya will be. Because everything in Kenya, fine, I agree. We must do public participation with the stakeholders. With the stakeholders. Because some of this public participation also, that is why we must do the law and clear out a lot of gray areas, is also what is hindering. Because you find that public participation, those who are of interest, you see this JKIA, there are some people who have been there also for 30 years, doing their business. Monopoly. If you try and penetrate in, they will fight you like nonsense. I even know the food, everything. They've been there since the port started. Why are we not even asking ourselves? For the first time is when Kenya Airways was telling us they've gotten a profit of what? 591. So we are right now about to just kill it. Kenya Airways doesn't handle this airport. It is the staff. So when you do that, and even Kenya Airways itself is not part and parcel, because today if they were, they would manage what is happening, and you will continue. I'm not saying don't question, don't go on strike. No, but you look at where you are.
There's a lot of secrecy. How come there's a lot of secrecy in such mega?
I know there's a lot of secrecy, but I am asking myself, so when Ethiopia goes on and does well, Rwanda does well, do you have an airline coming? will you have the job? You see, because we must be asking very serious questions.
But you said yourself the issue is how it has been handled.
Yes.
You don't necessarily oppose privatization or bringing in private entities to run the airport, but how is it being handled?
Exactly.
Yes.
And that is my biggest bone of contention with the ministry. Okay. That even up to now, I saw the court saying nobody should touch, Adani should not be there. So how come the workers have gone again on strike? Does it mean Adani has decided to become adamant that they are just there doing things and we don't know? We have to ask.
Okay.
Yeah. But for me, I want to tell Kenyans, as we do all these things, let me tell you, recently, a few investors said this. Kenya, you can only invest in 1 year. 2 years, everything of theirs is joking with the country. 2 years, they start again their election. We must go back on the drawing board. I mean, our gold is the brains God gave us. We have no gold in the soil that we can be proud of to say we have minerals. We have our mineral that God gave Kenya was the brains that He gave to each son and daughter of this soil.
How come there's so much secrecy? And this goes as far back as other mega infrastructure projects, including the SGR, where there are demands, and this was in the last administration, there were demands for the deal to be made public. Correct. It has never been made public till today. The workers at KAU are saying, just make this public. Give us a document so that we understand this deal. No one is willing to do that. Why the secrecy?
I'm personally feeling that we may have, in the next constitutional dispensation, we may have to create security of tenure around cabinet secretaries, so that if I'm imposed by the government, by the president, to be a cabinet secretary, and Parliament sits on it and they pass me, then like a judge, I should have security of tenure for a certain period of time. And this I say because I believe that the reason cabinet secretaries have this problem is that even if you are a good person and you intend to be open and transparent to the people, you will have a problem because they are vested interests. So
they're not acting independently.
They're not. I think there's a problem somewhere because SGR was sounding like this. Now Adani deal is sounding like this. I would appeal, and I still go there. The current new minister for infrastructure and transport should come out. Chirchir should have the courage to sit and face the press, not to wait for parliamentary summons, Senate summons, or a National Assembly summon. I appeal to my brother Chirchir, face the Kenyan people. If there is a problem, admit we have made a mistake and we are going to correct. If it is okay, then tell us this is a good deal and the deal is going to pay off this way. And in the meantime, I'm also appealing to the leaders of the workers and so on. This picture you're seeing, it is millions of shillings getting lost. You know why? The passengers who are late, they must be accommodated by that Kenya Airways or whatever other. So, and you're taken to a 5-star hotel. Those monies are going to be deducted from all the profits that Kenya Airways or other companies have made, which is very sad. Because if let's say I am a foreign company operating through Kenya, through no mistake of mine, my aircraft was there, and then all of a sudden, they cannot be processed.
There are no ground service.
Then I have to pay for the passengers to be accommodated. I don't know for how long. Strike might take 2-3 days. I am paying them staying at a 5-star hotel, you know, and it is me paying. Next time I won't come to JKIA.
No.
And even those striking workers will have no job because I won't fly there.
Exactly.
I will go to connect through another place.
They're more concerned that if Adani takes over, they may not have a job either way. And as we continue this conversation, I can see the hashtag Occupy JKIA just went up. I think the only other hashtag was Debate 2024, where Trump and Kamala Harris were going head to head. But Stop Adani and Occupy JKIA are now top trends on X. This means that this trend could take the same trajectory as a Reject Finance bill did a few months back. Are you worried that this trend, this kind of agitation, we are still in that mood?
First, before I respond to that, I wanted to contribute to what my good sister Mheshimiwa Elach mentioned, that privatization was a good thing. And I wanted to tell her, before you think of privatization, there is actually, you do some form of analysis to understand whether JKIA has been operating under laws or whether there is any need to privatize it, because it just don't privatize for the sake of privatization. If you look at JKIA, if you talk of infrastructure revamping, you know, how improving the infrastructure, the best way is to engage experts to build capacity of Kenya Airports Authority, KAA, who currently do run the airport. So before we think of privatizing it, because I don't think it is making operate under laws. We have not been told JKIA has been operating below expectation in terms of revenue.
But there have been serious challenges at JKIA.
There have been, what we have been noticing is infrastructure related challenges, but revenue collection has been on the top. So we need to ask ourselves, are we privatizing because infrastructure is not being revamped or revived as we would want to see it in a contemporary airport style? If that is the case, then you can bring experts, could be on engineering or something, you know, to guide KAA and make sure that our airport is competitive like any other airport in the world. But now bring in a company which, when you go to India, ask questions. So there are so many issues with Adani in India. Even Indians themselves, they are complaining about the company. And that's why I think it was kicked by Indians themselves. So this is not in the interest of the country. It is the interest of someone who brought Adani, who wants to make something out of it. And that is the motive, not the motive to improve JKIA, but the motive is to make money. When it comes now to the actual protest, one, it is going to make us lose our competitive edge over other airports within the region. Because as senators explained, many airlines who are going to incur losses may consider not to come to JKIA again as an entry to East Africa and to Central Africa for that matter. So that's something that is going to affect our competitive edge, which we have enjoyed over the years.
You're right.
Now, when it comes to Occupy JKIA and what you have told me regarding the Gen Cs, what they did within the finance bill, first, Gen C protest, as we have witnessed, was not an independent protest. Someone was behind this from the analysis and looking at what happened. Remember when the broad-based government was formed, which was not what they were asking for, they calmed it down. So this Occupy JKIA is just an utterance which may not be supported unless someone who was behind the protest comes in and ignites the whole process for the Gen Cs and others to go to JKIA. Of course, what we want is calmness within JKIA, because as the only hope within the region in terms of air travel, we don't want to have these protests continuing beyond I'll talk of a day, not even 7 days, because 7 days is too long to wait. We are talking of even within 24 hours, these things should come to an end. But it's important for Adani to respect the court orders and also for the minister to come forthright and condemn this. It's only that, as I said, there could be conflict of interest. Maybe the person person who is behind the deal has more power than the minister, and the minister is afraid to come openly and make statements or contribute.
And it's interesting that
what's going on.
It's interesting that up till now we still don't have a statement from any of those authorities that are supposed to be taking care of the airport, not from the KAA or the Ministry of Transport and Infrastructure. Meanwhile, ground services have ground to a halt literally at the JKIA. Thousands of passengers are stranded. I'm not sure if flights are able even to land on the airport. We'll be getting these details later on as we continue. That's the situation at the JKIA. You're watching Morning Cafe. Let's take a break now. We'll be back for more.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair in the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47 with me, Fred Indimuli. We continue monitoring the situation at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, where Kenya Aviation Workers Union members allied to this union have all gone on strike, ground services at the airport, meaning that a number of passengers, quite a huge number, are stranded at JKIA as we speak. That conversation will continue, and yes, so we do have some pictures taken earlier this past night of passengers just waiting, and nothing much happening there in terms of processing passengers for them to board their flights. Some of them having to sleep on the cold floors at the airport and the departure terminals, waiting to know whether or not they'll be able to board their flights. All right. Live pictures there at the departure terminals at JKIA, and we'll be having more pictures and updates of what's exactly is happening there. We're not sure whether or not the traffic control tower is operational. How many flights have been able to leave the airport up until now, we do not know, because there's still no official statement of what's happening there from the authorities. I am still in studio with Senator Danson Mugatana and the members of the National Assembly, Robert Basil Ngui of Yatta and Beatrice Alachi of Dagoretti North. I want us to focus on a different piece of news now, and this has to do with the tragedy that took place last Thursday at the Hillside Academy in Endarasha. On the front page of the Star this morning, we do have a statement by the Auditor General and Nancy Gathungu saying schools do not have the right equipment and tools to handle fires, and this is why many schools are death traps. This is a story on the Star. Now, we've seen quite a number of these fires over and over, and so many recommendations have been made. On page 5 of the Star, they ask why schools cannot handle fire. They say no right firefighting equipment, no evacuation maps at building entrances, no fire assembly points, inadequate accommodation spaces, poor coordination for response, inadequate training, non-compliance with safety standards, doors opening inwards, windows fitted with metal grills, no doors at each end of the dormitory, narrow doorways. Now, these are something that has been there for decades, Madam Elachi. The fact that we've not been able to ensure that there are standards in terms of responding to fire incidences in schools also raises the questions on whether or not boarding schools are still viable in Kenya today. That's a debate now. Even as we get to the third and final day of the 3 days of national mourning, which ends today at dusk, there's so many questions in the minds of Kenyans. Do we still need boarding schools going forward where we put our children in such risk?
First, let me send my condolences to the parents of Hillside in Endarasha, and to say that it is unfortunate and very heartbreaking, because I know we have no answers for the parents. But at the same time, why is it as a country we have so many laws, but they don't help us to roadmap ourselves? It's a question we should start asking ourselves also as a country, that we have too many laws. We have a law, a basic Education Basic Act. It stipulates everything that is supposed to be done for a school to have standards. It's in need of it has established a council which has not been done by the ministry for quality assurance. It has activities on how the PTA has to work in schools, how they must engage with teachers, the school. You get into the dorms, you look how the dorms are to ensure the standards of children are well taken care of. But then we don't. So it goes back to us, as I said, even when we started the fast. Us as a country, as a people, me as a Kenyan, when I'm given an office, what is my role? What do I want for the country? Have I gone just because there's a salary? Or have I gone to transform and leave a legacy at the place I have been given? So that's the biggest challenge we face, even with the ministry. If there's a place where you need to really be asking raft questions and radical questions, is in the Ministry of Education, because you have a Department of Quality Assurance. Do you ever Or we go when now we have a disaster like at Hillside, we shall do the same the way we did in Nairobi. Or I think the only person who used to try and move and do rattle a bit was the late Makoha. And may his soul rest in peace. He's the only one who used to push. You'll see he's in need of love for children. Because one of the things both teachers, parents, all of us, do we love our children is the question we should be asking ourselves. Do we love? Because children would wish to be loved. Do we have a human heart in this? And so yes, it is a disaster. But this is not the first disaster. And so when you look at even the aerial pictures you keep on giving us and all this, we ask ourselves, we had agreed after Moi Girls Nairobi, a dorm should have a way in, a way out. And so you cannot tell me the bigger door is how you enter. It is the exit that's supposed to be more bigger and your corridors more wider. And that's what we agreed when we went through the most tragic of Nairobi girls' secondary school in Nairobi.
Girls, yeah.
And it was very painful. And people don't heal. It triggers them every time. The other day, the girl graduated. I think she was abroad. It triggered many parents, went on social media, and they were not very happy. That means parents never heal on this. How will you heal even? I don't know. You can't heal. So for me, can this Hillside be the last? Can we see open doors? And I will tell all of us members of parliament who are dealing with infrastructure and everything, can we start being serious even as if we are the ones doing infrastructure in schools to ensure how you have built the school, it is especially dorms, that a dorm can have 2 last windows on every dorm, huge, that whenever there is fire, it's for exit, just the way we normally have on buses, a window for exit, so that
But these are standards that have already been agreed upon.
They were agreed upon after Moi Girls.
Yes.
We have never done any. That's why I'm saying it goes back to the ministry. The question now the ministry should be telling us, why is it that we don't have this department
but what about the parents
doing it work?
And I'm asking this with all the sensitivity there is, because children to any parent are perhaps the most valuable of any, if I may call it, possession of any parent. The fact that we are aware, even as parents, that some of these standards are not met, yet you still subject your child to this going forward. That's why questions are being asked. Are boarding schools still viable, if at all we cannot meet the standards of safety in this country?
No, I would want us to separate the two issues. Let us not argue the viability of boarding school because there's a fire. Let us not argue the viability of a boarding school because a bus had an accident and it's a boarding school bus. Let us not argue the viability of boarding school because there was a fight in class. Those are two separate issues. For me, I was a product of both day school and boarding school, and I think I turned out fine. The decision to go to boarding school normally is not a deliberate decision. For most of our parents, it's because they are working elsewhere and they needed you to be stable in a certain environment. So they would get you admitted into a boarding school because of the realities of their kind of life. So let us not say abolish boarding schools or what to stop going to school to follow the animals, then you are denying that child his right to education. So boarding schools in certain counties must be there, so let's not have that argument with the fire. What needs to be done in this fire And I'm making an appeal to the government. The minister went and made a statement, but that statement was not an executive statement. You know, as a member of the Senate, when I go to such a place, I would probably say things like, we need to change the law, we need to do this and the other and the other. That's me, because I am a senator. I am not in the executive. But if you are the governor or the representative of the president, when you go there, you give certain directives, like the headmaster must be questioned, must be put under arrest, questioned. The teachers who are in charge of the dormitory must be arrested, put and questioned. That is executive working. The parents who lost their children, we cannot refund or return their lives, but every one of them is going to be paid 2 million shillings as compensation. We are going to pay for all funeral expenses. We are going to pay for counseling of parents so that they can reach a certain level of acceptance. We are going to arrange prayer meetings for this place so that people can start. We are going to close this school for this number of days so that we can have the morning and come back. If you are a governor, if you are a minister, go there with executive authority. Don't go there to make appeals and what, because that is the work of senators and the work of the National Assembly and the work of MCS. Let me say this again. And this is the point I wanted to make, and why I'm saying head teachers and the people who are in charge of dormitories and so on should be held accountable, not just in this school, but across the country. Mm-hmm. You see, we had the school I went to in A-level, in O-level and A-level. When you arrive in Alliance High School, we used to be told you must go through a tie test. So I'm coming from Arap Moi Ngao in Tana River, and I've just been admitted. And I'm told this is the custom of this place. You must do this, you must do this, and you are given actually rules that you must memorize, where the school started from and how many headmasters and so on, the traditions of the school. And then if you pass, and the persons who are training and pushing you and even bullying you are your seniors who are Form 2s. So you are put into a culture system that tells you this is what is expected of you. And of course, as you continue, you come to realize academics are critical in that school. So why is it that headmasters, including our own headmaster there, or my own headmaster in Ronald Gala Primary School in Mombasa, where I was day school, in Arap Moi Primary School, Ngao, where I was in boarding, why didn't they tell us, look, you need to have safety concerns when you are in this school. You need to know if there's a fire, you assemble there. And children are very obedient. If you teach me at a young stage that if this bell rings, you are supposed to assemble. But we have bells that ring in school. In fact, in my standard 7, I was a bellboy in Ngao, Arap Moi. So, but that bell is for assembly, and that's it, you know. In high school, we had a very beautiful tradition of the headmaster's talk. Saturday, everybody, at least I know many of my friends, we used to look forward to meeting the headmaster, and he would talk to us as a father, not as a headmaster. He would tell us, don't chase girls, you need to set up yourself. When you get married, this is what you're supposed to do. In university where you are going, this is what you should expect to do this. So he talks to us as a father. So for some people who did not have the advantage of having both parents, it was a good thing. But even in those headmasters' talks that were there, things about safety, things about developing a culture of safety within schools was not there. The only thing is, in case you are running and you fall, go to the sanatorium or you'll be taken to a hospital. That's all that is discussed. So
it's a very casual approach to safety.
There is no serious, like you're putting it casual approach. There's no tradition. And this is, tradition is what defines a people. It's not the laws of that country.
But what happened to the inspectors of schools that used to be there just to check on standards? Because so many schools, especially with the privatization and commercialization of education, so many have mushroomed and become even almost approaching business-like models. But when it comes to standard, that definitely cannot be left to parents. Not even to the schools themselves. This is a duty that the government should take upon itself, and the ministry should lead in as far as checking quality and using inspectors of schools to check whether private or public. Don't you think that that is part of the problem there?
First, I think, one, we are becoming a very reactive country because we tend to react when events occur. Like what we have seen now with the fire, outbreaks in schools, that's the time we become more reactive. When it comes to quality assurance, I would say most of the quality assurance inspectors, they have failed in their job because they are the ones to ensure safety audits are done periodically in schools.
Correct.
So that if you have an infrastructure, if you talk of a dormitory, it has not only to have 2 doors, but minimum at least 2 or 3 doors, because 2 doors still is not enough. Remember, it's a hall, the way the dormitories are built in Kenya, and in a situation where fires broke in a school, you find everyone is, running for safety, and even that could bring the stampede. Some of the students could find themselves falling down and others running over them. So it means that our quality assurance inspectorates are not doing their job. That's number one. Number two, our career guidance. Because remember, some of these fires are initiated, or actually the arsonists are within the schools. And some of it, because of technology, there's incitements. Remember, during our time, there were no phones. But today, students are sneaking in with mobile phones. So they can easily incite each other, say, we are going to burn ours today, so you do yours tomorrow, so that we have a free time. Because once you burn your school, definitely you have to go home. So they get an holiday. They're creating holidays for themselves without understanding the repercussions in terms of costs involved in rebuilding the school, and also how their parents subjected their parents to unnecessary economic suffering. Not only loss of lives, but loss of properties which have to be rebuilt, and parents have to dig to their pockets. So this level of incitement is an indication. One, the career guidance units within schools are not doing their job. Because when you are well modeled or mentored, when in school to achieve or to meet a certain goal, that will be the driving force, which is going to restrain you from engaging in any unlawful acts, like, creating fires, anarchy within school, etc. But you find these things are not there. Even the motivation of teachers is going down. We have seen teachers striking over and over again. And it has reached a point, even they themselves, they are not motivated to discharge their duties as they're supposed to, because sometimes they're not listened to. So students are left to be on their own.
Are we approaching the whole issue of education a bit too casually, including safety, quality standards?
Yes, and all these, the driving force, the moment you lose patriots, that is the effects or the resultant effects which you see. Because a patriot will discharge his or her duties as per the interest of the country and as he or she would want to have it done. Remember, if you are a parent in that school and you are a teacher in that school, you don't want your child to die through fire or something.
Yet we've seen
you want safety in your school. But you find those who are
if these standards are there and parents are taking their children there and they realize that these standards have not been adhered to in the school, you take a look at the dormitories and the requirements are not there, yet you still leave your child in that situation. That's a question many people are now asking. Are we having this conversation just partially?
No.
we need to take probably responsibility as a whole society.
Big responsibility as parents. That's why I said the PTA was there to change. I think when the law was being put in 2013, it was to help us to now change conditions in school, because as parents, you'll be more responsible than even the teacher in terms of the condition you want your children to be in, what they eat, and all these things. Yes, I agree with Senator and also Mahesh. Fine, we don't want to completely say we are abolishing boarding schools. But then, the children of today are not us. You imagine a young baby aged 8 years is in grade 4. Why the children of Indonesia, and this is just my hypothesis or maybe opinion, died 21 of them like that? It's because children were asleep. Whether you have a bell, well, they are children. They were totally deep asleep. Then the worst, they had already breathed in completely that smoke. So they don't have the energy. Even I believe the ones who are being removed, they were being thrown out when they are asleep. They didn't even know. So the question, even if you're questioning all these people, already the infrastructure of the school will tell you there was no housemaster or anyone who sleeps with the children inside. Because when you look at where the matron is, you wonder whether the young boy had to run through the door to go out, because if he went back behind, because the fire starts here at the main door, back, by the time he's coming back to come out, that fire is consumed completely. Unless he went and then went through the small exit door that I see is in dome 8 of grade 8. The other domes are on this other side. You see already the infrastructure. If the parents used to go there and just have the knowledge, because we can blame parents and maybe it's just the knowledge, you know. And all of us always say, God will help our children. God will do this. But we have to learn from that structure. You can never build domes like that. That it is time we have to build a dome. It has clear. Exit is very clear. And you can see where it is headed is a place where there are no any other buildings, so that when there is disaster, even the classrooms, we have to ensure there is a ramp. If the stairs can't, they will use the ramp to run. So we have to ensure all these safeties are coming in. And it is us also, as I said, members of parliament, who should start now showing the best. And public, because it's not us who do the drawings, it is public works. So if you want to blame everything, the other question will be, as we build schools, because public schools are given the drawings by public works. Private schools, do they use public works? Because you are going to, one of the things we have left completely in Demoli, children in Kenya, the ones who go to private schools, it's like those ones are private. They forget it is a government property. You have entered into a government institution where we are building you. We are empowering you for your future. So it is wrong to leave private schools to tell me that they will be doing their own infrastructure. It is time government has to tell them, we allow you to do your private, but we shall come in for quality assurance. Because when now it becomes like this, now is when we are calling government. Yeah, that's where again it is wrong. Right. So there are many mistakes we have done. We must ensure whether a school is private, children who have gone there are children of Kenya. The other thing we must do is to give every child in Kenya a NEMIS number. Whether she's in private school, whether she's in Abed school, he or she must have a government number that shows we have 2 million children who woke up in the morning, and when you go on the data, even you here, you are able to just focus and say, how many children are in Kenya right now in school? You will know there are 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, and you will know they have gone to school. So it is something the ministry has to do for us. Lastly, children are they have 3 things they fight for. That is why we must think, as we move into the CBC, how do we deal with this? Because in children's life, they have 3 pressure points. The young ones are okay, but when they come to the age of 12, 13, change of body, rebellion to their parents, where they start telling you, I need my room, which is okay, because that time he's showing you they are growing. But lastly, relationships. So even in these boarding schools that we want to take our primary, I'm not saying we should have boarding schools in high school. Yes, that one we agree, because these are people who have energy. But grade 3, grade 4, 5, they are very young.
Can I say
they need a lot of, they can be in boarding school, but that school must have a matron that is like a mother.
Okay.
Can I say something just before we depart from this topic? When a building collapses, the first person who is arrested and taken for investigation is the owner of the building.
Yeah.
The owner of that building is arrested, and then investigations are carried out, and if he is found to have contravened the building code, contravened safety requirements, contravened this and this, appropriate charges are preferred. Now, we have lost so many students, and there's no action. No action at all. And
no arrests so far.
No arrests.
Yeah.
We just saw DCI going there to do some DNA testing. I don't know if they want to identify the children. Nobody is looking at the question. There's a building which has burnt down. Were the standards by the
Kenya Power
followed? The county government, the Ministry of Education, were these adhered to? Who is the owner of that building? Can he answer to this question? This was a big opportunity for somebody to be held responsible, and the rest of Kenyans out there, whether you are running a private school, whether you are running a public school, even if you are a headmaster in one of these secondary schools here, and you know that if a building is burned down, it is you. We will follow you. I'm sure some discipline would start flowing in. This would be a topic when the headmasters meet in their annual discussions. You know, this would be a topic when teachers meet in their annual meetings. You know, when principals meet, when KEPSA is meeting, and all these heads, when they are meeting, if somebody, one of theirs is facing charges, they will make it a topic, and it will be. But you know, I don't know. I'm feeling that there's an executive button that hasn't been pressed, so that discipline is entered in. This is an opportunity for some people to learn, but it is being lost just like that, you know.
Yes, there are calls for prosecution of heads of schools,
absolutely,
of fires and deaths. And
absolutely, because, and it is not, we are not targeting the schools. We are saying, even if this building collapses where we are sitting, the person who constructed it will be held responsible. Why are we treating our children casually?
Yes.
You know?
It is a casual nature that we approach matters safety in schools that is a cause of concern. Saying most schools don't have the right equipment and tools to handle fires, contrary to the school's safety standard manual. So the manual does exist, but according to the Auditor General, schools are simply death traps. And of course the debate is on whether or not we should keep on encouraging boarding schools, but that will continue. Remember, today is the third day of national mourning following that proclamation by President William Ruto last week, and the flags are still flying at half-mast until dusk this evening. We will leave that conversation for now and now discuss matters to do with politics as we head towards the tail end of the show. Now, on the People Daily, and we'll come discuss issues of ODM later on, I'm sure we do have one of the MPs who was at State House to explain to us how come ODM is split. But on the People Daily, it's a different strand in as far as politics is concerned, and they say why 2027 polls remain in limbo. It is a splash headline on the front page of the People Daily. They say, as authorities rush to set up elections agency, experts warn that delay in review of constituency boundaries within legal timelines could plunge the country into a constitutional quagmire. This is something that we've been talking about, and I'm sure, Bwana Ngui, we've had an opportunity to talk about the fact that we have defied the Constitution. The provision for review of constituency and ward boundaries was to have been met by the deadline of March this year. That is an upper deadline, meaning 12 years. The Constitution is very clear on this one and talks about 8 years and 12 years. We've gone beyond that. Now we're heading very fast towards 2027. Constituencies have not been reviewed. That could mean that someone could go to court and leave it up to the Supreme Court to give an advisory on this. And that could affect the 2027 polls. Do you think that we are also approaching matters constitution and electoral matters also very casually?
You know, we are a country which is supposed to uphold the rule of law, but unfortunately, we seem not to respect the Constitution. Remember, by now we should be having IBC and IBC commissioners. But
that conversation we forgot about.
IBC commissioners, no one is talking about it. And we even have constituencies who did not have replacements after the leaders. You know, like remember the MP for, I think it is Northeastern, who was knocked by a motor.
Balisa.
Yes. And that was more than a year. Actually close to 2 years, because I think he was sworn in after 3 months or something. The sad event happened and he lost his life. Today, that constituency is not represented in Parliament, which is supposed to be within the Constitution. Is supposed to be their right to be represented. But up to date, there is no representation of that constituency in Parliament, simply because there is no IBC commissioners. So if you talk of review of boundaries, it is the commissioners who are supposed to spearhead the whole exercise. And the institution itself is not up and running. And we are all quiet because we have a broad-based government. Remember, of course, the opposition is there, but we have been constrained in terms of the authority, the power the opposition has been having to check the government. Because when you talk of broad-based government, majority of the opposition members have already joined the government. And that's why now no agitation, the country, the focus is not about that. No one is telling the government we need to respect the Constitution. Otherwise, we put ourselves in the constitutional crisis, as you have already indicated, and that's where we are now. Now, coming back to the way forward, definitely if someone goes to court, then that could also affect the elections of 2027. And I don't think Kenyans are ready. Remember, people are still campaigning 3 years before elections. You know, we are already in the campaign mode. That is still coming up. You hear people saying 2027 is not very far. We are already thinking of 2027 instead of focusing on delivery, deliverables. Because like someone said the other day, Tanzania are holding election next year. But when you go there, they're not in election mood. But our country, we have 3 years to go before we can talk of elections. But we are still in a campaign mood. So there is so much that we need to do to change that culture and to focus on deliverables as well as observing the timelines that are provided for by the Constitution.
And we're already in violation of Article 89 that provides for the time frame to review the Constitution, the boundaries, meaning that even if we were to attempt to undertake that review now, it would require an amendment to the Constitution already because we're in violation. That in itself means we already have a problem going to 2027. How come members of the National Assembly especially appear conveniently quiet on this issue? Is it a convenient bias? Is it something that many people are comfortable with, the fact that we've ignored the review of boundaries?
You see, for me, whether we talk here about the reviews of boundaries, we need IBC. And I thought when we did NADCO, that was when we were finalizing this thing of IEBC. Now, I saw everyone at KICC, the report, the beginning of now getting IEBC. If you ask me now, I will tell you, I am waiting to see them telling us we have called in for recruitment. I haven't even seen, so I'm wondering what this committee that was given now the responsibility, where are, by the way, Parliament, we finished our work. We handed over. In fact, it is now the committee of JLAC, the chairman should come here and explain to Kenyans what happened after I saw people being paraded at KICC that we are moving on now. What has happened again? What is delaying? Is it the team that was given the work? Is it that they don't want? Is it that they have decided to go slow and they are not telling us? That Parliament, we finished, passed the report, passed the bill. I think it even went through the Senate. It is gone, if I'm not wrong. Yes. So it's, in fact, Parliament, we've done our bit. It is where we've handed over is where they have killed it. So we are wondering, do we recall it? Because that's the only way we can now bring jumpstart again.
Is it a necessary convenience for politicians not to have the boundaries reviewed?
Maybe
oh, no.
Just before I got into that question, I wanted to say that the need for IEBC is serious. And at least for us in Tana River County, we lost the Honorable MCA of Chewani Ward. Chewani Ward is like, we used to call him mayor because he was at the center where the headquarters of the county in Hola is. So for us, we actually need it like yesterday. What I'm aware is, like Honorable Beatrice has said, it was passed in the National Assembly, it was passed in Senate, and from my recollection is that the process of identifying the commissioners had begun because there was a panel that was endorsed to start calling for, and I think I saw like the process started, but it has gone quiet. So either they are doing it quietly or they're not doing anything. And the problem of doing things quietly is that when they come out, it becomes an issue of transparency, public participation, and so on. So I hope they will up their game in terms of communication to the public if the process is continuing. But we are actually in need of the IEBC. Then going to the boundaries issue, I'm also affected in Tana River because one of the constituencies has not met the criteria, and it was one of the protected constituencies. So Galole constituency is a protected constituency in my county. And if we were to apply the rule directly, it would be lost. But we have an understanding in the political elite and amongst the people also who I call the sovereign. Because remember, Article 1, the sovereign of this Republic of Kenya is not a king, is not a queen, it is the people. And the people of Kenya cannot agree constituencies which already are enjoying a member of parliament to be denied a member of parliament. That all of a sudden you have been dissolved. So there is an understanding both in the Senate.
Understanding based or backed by the Constitution, or?
It is. You can argue that the sovereign has said so. Because both in the Senate and in the National Assembly, where the people have donated the power for representation, all of us feel that you cannot take away a constituency from people. So it's just the mechanics. At the end of it, the Constitution should comply with the people's wishes. You see where I'm going?
But the argument is that if people are not comfortable with that provision, then they amend the Constitution.
Yes, the processes of amendment take a long time. That is why
it's convenient to defy the Constitution?
It's not convenient. We are not, look, I'm saying the sovereign has said protect these constituencies, period. Okay, that's what the sovereign has said. You go and try and remove Galole today. You go and try remove Lamu East today. You will see how the people will react. So it is clear to me, like day and night, that those constituencies are not going to be removed. Okay, that is the agreement. They donated power by National Assembly, donated power by Senate, donated power to the president and all the other people who have been elected into office. All of us have an understanding that the sovereign does not want those to be dissolved. That is why even when the advisory came from the Chief Justice to dissolve in the last parliament, they said we give it time, you know, and then when the time came, nobody really pushed, because when you look at it, the 2/3 had not been obliged, but you could not do what the sovereign doesn't want to do at that point.
But don't you see a trend there that we found a way of conveniently defying some provisions of this constitution without any direct consequence?
Let me tell you something.
Won't we go ahead and change the date of election without any consequence?
In the UK, they do not have a written constitution. Nothing is written. But the people live by customs and standards, you know, and precedents. They have agreed. So even in Kenya, we know that by custom and precedent, the sovereign cannot allow constituencies which are already in existence to disappear. And even if you go and get a court order, it is against what the people want. It's like today, you go and get a court order and say, there's no 2/3 rule maybe in the judiciary, so let us dissolve the judiciary. Or there's no 2/3 rule in all the ministries, let us dissolve the ministries. It would be an order that is not in keeping with what our people want, you know. Right now what we want is to solve a Adani problem, to solve the problems that we are dealing with. There's no money to do this. We need to raise our budgets and so on. So my argument remains that IEBC will be constituted and they will do boundary review on time,
which will require an amendment. So the fact is we'll have to go for an amendment before this.
They will do the boundary review on time. That's what for the elections. Because your question and your worry was it's going to interfere with 2027. You tell me in Kenya what you can do. You know, how you will convince this whole multitude that you don't have elections in Kenya because that you want to remove some constituencies, what. You must find a way to obey the sovereign. The sovereign says they know second week of August 2027, we must have elections. We must renew the mandate of these people and we must protect those constituencies. How you find to do it, the mechanics, that's a different matter. So I wholly believe that, that the newspapers there are talking about an non-existent constitutional crisis. We will still have 2027 elections. There will be a boundary review before then, and
a possible amendment to the constitution.
A possible amendment. We will find a way.
Okay. Yeah. And so yes, that's the concern raised on the front page of the People Daily, and the delays in amending, or rather reviewing, the boundaries of constituencies and wards across Kenya. The fact that we do not have an IEBC in place, how could that possibly affect the elections come 2027? Now, as we wrap up, finally, back to politics. On the front page of the Daily Nation today, it talks about why ODM MPs, why Raila MPs failed to meet President Ruto. I'm looking for the Taifa Leo. It has a different wording to the same, and Taifa Leo talks about kiini cha ODM kugomea Ruto, na wanasema baadhi ya viongozi chamani wanahisi kuunga mkono Rais Ruto kutawachongea pakubwa machoni pa wananchi. Meaning basically they are split on whether or not direct support to the president could affect the popularity on the ground. Before we even get to Beatrice Elachi, who was one of the MPs who accompanied the president on that day. She did not skip the meeting. Bwana Basil, do you see the problem that ODM is suffering, that this support and the broad-based discussion that we're having is not one that is so palatable or acceptable across board, that some people say on principle it should not have happened?
You know, and I think I said it here before, not all ODM members of parliament were for the idea of broad-based government. And most of them think the negotiation was for the interest of Raila, not for the interest of the party, and the interest of Kenyans. So that kind of betrayal, as I said earlier here, is what is bringing that rift which we are witnessing within the ODM party. It's very clear when you will be going for election in 2027, not all ODM current members of parliament will actually run with the party ODM, because as people say, politics is local. If citizens, those we represent, want or do not feel that the kind of agreement, the deal that was struck between ODM and Ruto Kenya Kwanza is not in the interest of what they wanted, then most of them will say we are done with ODM. And that is where now members of parliament who have voted under the ODM party may want to distance themselves from the party leader. And that is what we are likely to see. And I'm double sure, although when I say that my dear sister and Honorable Elachi will say, I'm saying because I'm in the Wiper party, but very likely you will see Wiper being one of the beneficiaries, because those who are not happy with ODM party are likely to jump the ship and join us.
The concern initially was that ODM and the action of the broad-based government would have meant in the National Assembly is that ODM would, as a unit, now be a voting bloc in support of this administration. It would appear that is the case.
That is what is hypothetically assumed. But when it comes to voting, I think people vote based on what their citizens or the people they represent want. So when for example, the finance bill, the 2024, the one we rejected, is likely to be brought back to Parliament. Because remember, Badi has been trying to see how he can raise revenue to be able to fund the 3.8 trillion budget. That implies that he's likely to reintroduce the same finance bill that we rejected. And at that particular point in time, the ODM members of parliament who are not happy with the deal, the broad-based agreement, will likely join Wiper Party and other parties who are with the citizens to vote against the bill. That is the likely scenario. And I'm sure even Elachi can confirm she will also not vote in favor of the 2024 bill.
Yet she was among those MPs who accompanied President William Ruto on that tour of the affordable housing earlier this week, the projects, and later on a meeting at State House. A text message was sent to all the Nairobi ODM leaders, elected leaders, to show up for this. Only a few of you turned up. And now they're talking, the Daily Nation talks about ODM IG, ODM IO. ODM in government, ODM in opposition.
Well, it's good so that we have news for the papers, which is okay. Now let's go to the reality. You see, one of the things I've never understood about Nairobi leaders, me being one of them, is that we joke. This is the capital city of Kenya. Our people have gone through a lot of hell, because when I'm going to the president, let me start from there. I am going to the president of the Republic of Kenya. I am not going to the party leader of broad-based. No. So those are two things I should be in my mind clear, very clear. Why am I going to the president of the Republic of Kenya? Because number one, all the issues every person is asking for is within the ministries.
Correct.
And he is part of that institution called government. And so when I go there, the first question I'm asking, Mathare was cleared. I need to understand to date, how are we going to assist our people who went with flood? To date, we have no idea. Just a minute.
The question is, how come this invitation was only for ODM leaders in Nairobi?
The question was not for ODM leaders of Nairobi. They were leaders of Nairobi. And by the way, it is not about ODM or anything. This one, you don't go about ODM or anything. You go knowing very well you want to start kazi mtaani. And so me as a member of parliament in Dagoretti North, I will just leave you to start kazi mtaani without me knowing how my people will benefit, how we are going to do this process so that you don't bring conflict on the ground, how 16, you are taking 13,000 young people, and no leader is there to say, look, the framework, the best way And Nairobi is ODM, by the way. First, let's start there. Even the governor. And so if garbage is a hell of mess, environment is taking us down, everything, who are supposed to question the president and the governor of Nairobi who are in Kenya Kwanza? It is us leaders who are voted in Nairobi. Yes. So we are, he gave us 1 billion for schools. Up to date, others have not received. We've received little. We need to go back to him and tell him, look, you gave us 1 billion shillings. We have never received it. The crises are this and this.
The Secretary General of your party says that he could not attend. He is an elected leader in Nairobi. He questions the president's initiative of inviting ODM leaders to State House, and he says he should not be doing so. Okay, fine. That is my SG. Now, if he has powers to stop it and then get us the 1 billion, me, I have no issue. You see, because you have to have also think through, you know. Because for me, I'm in a crisis in Dagoretti North. Tim was to attend. He's in Mombasa because we have sports. We are the ones who are going to do the Iyala sports this time in the country. So he was there. All of them sent their apologies, by the way. So how it came, they were boycotting. And I asked Chairman Aladwa, and Aladwa said they have asked. And they said next week all of them will be there. Let me say this today. The first time the president wanted to meet us. ODM leaders. ODM leaders. We were told we were going first for the Nyanza tour. So he went for the Nyanza. You know what, I find it, and I find it very painful for Nairobi voters. And I want to tell Nairobi voters, it's very painful that we have decided to make you suffer, that we cannot face a government where you are paying taxes for them to bring everything that you're supposed to get just because of our politics. Because you can't tell me in Nyanza, everyone can be seated with the president. In Coast, everyone is seated with the president. Then you come to Nairobi, you start telling me, oh, we are ODM. Parting shot, Madam. My parting shot is this. Let us respect Baba. Indeed, if you respect Baba, we cannot have these headlines today. No. We can have headlines of other things, but not saying we have ODM 1 that is with the president, ODM 2, who has who? Okay. Who has who? If indeed we respect Baba Raila Amolo Odinga, he's the one who said you must look at Kenya, focus for Kenya. When 2027 comes, I will be in ODM and we will not be with William. We shall be vying and fighting with him at that time. But for now, can we work for the people of Kenya? Okay. Yes. Thank you. Senator, final words, about a minute or so.
Just 1 minute. I believe that these headlines are supposed to be selling the newspapers, and my colleague Elachi has clarified that it was a meeting for development. People were supposed to be visiting the housing projects in Nairobi where there's a crisis in housing. Those who decided to make it political, it is their problem. And they probably influenced the newspapers. But let us do this. Kenyans must know, despite all these problems we are having, the housing project is on course. We know that many people have gotten employment there. And let us not be bought by headlines that are fake, you know, headlines that are supposed to be selling newspapers. I think we should know that the country has many things going for it, and I'm still hopeful that by the time 2027 comes, the programs on digital economy will have taken off. Many young people are employed in that sector. I know for a fact that for us in the coast, the blue economy has taken off. In many beach management units, we have gotten equipment, fishermen are working. You know, I know that the mining sector in the coast has taken off, and even with the new minister, Joho, pushing for the benefit of our people. So let us not forget that one headline in Nation cannot define what is happening. There's a lot in this country that is going on. Let us refuse this negativity and look also at the other newspapers. Don't just look at one newspaper shouting negative politics on one issue, you know, suggesting that the president is losing popularity, which is okay. We are not elected to be popular. We are elected to govern for now. In 2027, we will then have to be popular at that time.
Thank you, Senator. Finally, Basil, you have about 60 seconds only for your parting shot.
Yeah, I think I'll make two parting shots. One on about school fires. I want to tell my young brothers and sisters, the students, let's not burn our schools. We all went through the tensions that you guys face. So let's understand that time in school is a short period. And let's focus on learning and forget about destroying our properties. Remember, most of the destroyed properties are actually being built by parents. And as we all understand, if you burn your school, that is putting more burden, and I'm talking of economic burden, to already struggling parents. So let's have restraint, let's employ calmness and focus on learning. About matters with the politics, I think as Kenya we need to shift from politics, politicizing everything, and doing politics when it's not time for politics. Now it is time to work, unless Kenyans focus on work and leave aside politics. The time for campaigns will come, but for now it's about time to work.
Basil Robert Ngui, MP at a constituency, asante sana. Senator Danson Mungatana of Tana River and Beatrice Salachi, MP Dagoretti North, our panelists this morning as we take a look at the big headlines today. Quite a variety.
She's the MP of the president.
Oh, yes.
That is my constituency.
Yes.
So I always don't understand.
State House is actually in Dagoretti North.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Asanteni sana for your time at TV 47 this morning. And yes, we keep checking on what is happening at the JKIA with the Kenya Aviation Workers Union strike on, a number of activities grounded literally at the JKIA.